Hello there and welcome. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. Right now, wherever you are, I want you to take a gentle breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let the day begin to fade behind you, like the sun slipping below a distant horizon. You're safe here. You're exactly where you need to be. Tonight, you do not need to do anything but listen. You do not need to remember these facts or take notes or stay awake. If sleep finds you after the first fact or the 50th, that is exactly right. This video will still be here tomorrow, but for now, let your mind wander with me through valleys of sand and stone, through nights so cold that frost forms on cactus spines, through days so hot that the air itself seems to shimmer and bend. Before we begin our journey, if you are enjoying this moment of peace, I would be grateful if you pressed the like button. And if you want more journeys like this one, more places to rest your thoughts at the end of a long days, consider subscribing. But there is no pressure. You're welcome here either way. So settle in now, adjust your pillow, pull your blanket a little higher. Let your breathing slow down to match the rhythm of the desert wind, which moves patiently across the world, shaping everything it touches, grain by grain, year by year, century by century. We are going to explore 100 quiet truths about deserts, and somewhere in these truths, I hope you find rest. Let us begin. Fact 1. Deserts are defined not by heat but by dryness. A desert is any place that receives less than 10 inches of rain each year. This means that some deserts are not hot at all. Antarctica is a desert. The cold white expanse at the bottom of the world is technically the largest desert on Earth, even though it is covered in ice. When we think of deserts, we usually imagine scorching sand and relentless sun. But the true heart of what makes a desert is the absence of water. It is thirst made into landscape, and in that thirst, a strange beauty emerges. Fact 2. About 1/3 of all land on Earth is desert. That is an enormous portion of our planet. If you could see Earth from space and mark every desert in gold, nearly 1/3 of the continents would glow. These dry lands stretch across Africa, Asia, Australia, North and South America, and even into the polar regions. They are not mistakes or wastelands. They're essential parts of how our planet breathes and changes. Deserts shape weather patterns. They influence ocean currents. They're connected to forests and rivers thousands of miles away in ways we're only beginning to understand. Fact 3. The Sahara Desert is the largest hot desert in the world. It covers an area about the size of the United States, stretching across North Africa from the Atlantic Ocean to the Red Sea. Imagine a sea of sand and rock so vast that ancient travellers could cross it for months and still see only more desert ahead. The Sahara is not one landscape but many. It contains sand dunes taller than skyscrapers, flat plains of gravel, mountains of dark stone, and even patches of green where underground water reaches the surface. It is a world within a world. Fact 4. The Sahara was not always a desert. Thousands of years ago it was green. Rivers flowed through it. Lakes sparkled under the sun. Hippos swam in waters that no longer exist. People hunted and gathered along riverbanks that are now buried under sand. We know this because researchers have found ancient rock paintings deep in the Sahara showing giraffes, elephants, and people fishing. The climate shifted slowly over millennia, and the green land dried up, leaving behind only stone, sand, and memory. This tells us something important. Deserts are not permanent. The Earth is always changing, always moving through cycles we can barely perceive in our short human lifetimes. Fact 5. Sand dunes can sing. In certain deserts around the world, when the wind blows across large dunes in just the right way, the sand produces a low, haunting hum or booming sound. It can last for minutes. Some people describe it as a drum, others as a cello, still others as a voice from deep underground. Scientists believe this happens when grains of sand of a certain size and shape vibrate together as they slide down the face of a dune. But even with this explanation, there is something magical about standing in the silence of a desert and hearing the sand itself sing. It reminds us that the world is full of wonders that do not need us to witness them. They happen whether we are there or not. Fact 6. The driest place on Earth is the Atacama Desert in Chile. Some parts of the Atacama have not received rain in over 400 years, not a single drop. Weather stations sit in valleys between mountains where the air is so dry that wooden handles crack, metal rusts differently, and almost nothing can grow. Yet even here, life persists. Bacteria live in the soil, cacti survive in fog. When rain finally does come, perhaps once in a decade, the desert floor explodes with colour as millions of wildflower seeds that have been waiting patiently in the dust suddenly bloom all at once. It is called the flowering desert, and it lasts only days before fading back into brown and grey. But those few days are enough. Life does not need constant comfort. It only needs a chance. Fact 7. Deserts can be hot during the day and freezing at night. Without clouds to trap heat, the warmth of the sun escapes quickly after sunset. In some deserts, the temperature can drop 50 degrees Fahrenheit or more between afternoon and midnight. This extreme swing is hard on living things. Animals must find ways to stay cool during the day and warm at night. Plants must endure both burning heat and frost within a single rotation of the Earth. This daily challenge has shaped desert life into some of the most resourceful and resilient forms anywhere on the planet. Fact 8. Cacti store water in their thick stems. When it rains, their roots spread wide and shallow just beneath the surface to soak up as much moisture as possible before it evaporates or sinks too deep. The water is then stored inside the cactus, which swells and becomes heavier. A large cactus can hold hundreds of gallons of water, enough to survive for months or even years without rain. The waxy coating on their skin prevents evaporation. Their spines provide shade and protect them from animals. Every part of a cactus is designed for survival, in a place where water is more valuable than gold. Fact 9. Not all deserts have sand. In fact, only about 20% of the world's deserts are covered in sand. The rest are rocky, gravelly, or covered in hard-packed clay. Some deserts look like the surface of another planet, with strange rock formations sculpted by wind over millions of years. Others are flat and featureless, stretching to the horizon without a single tree or hill to break the view. The image of rolling sand dunes is beautiful and iconic, but it represents only a small fraction of what deserts truly are. They are far more varied, far stranger, and far older than most people realize. Fact 10. The oldest deserts on Earth are in Namibia and Australia. These deserts have existed for tens of millions of years. They have watched continents drift. They have seen species rise and fall. The sand in some of these ancient deserts has been weathered and worn for so long that it has turned deep red and orange from iron oxidation. Walking through them feels like walking through time itself. The dunes are ancient. The stones remember ages before humans existed. There is a weight to these places, a gravity that has nothing to do with the pull of the earth and everything to do with the passage of unimaginable stretches of time. Fact 11. Desert animals are masters of water conservation. The kangaroo rat, a small rodent that lives in North American deserts, never drinks water. Not once in its entire life. It gets all the moisture it needs from the seeds it eats. Its kidneys are so efficient that its urine is almost paste-like, wasting almost no water. Its body has adapted so perfectly to dryness that introducing it to a water-rich environment would actually be harmful. This little creature is proof that life does not merely survive in deserts, it thrives. It becomes something new, something extraordinary. Fact 12. Camels can survive longer without water than almost any other large animal. They can go weeks without drinking, losing up to 25% of their body weight in the process. When they finally do find water, they can drink over 30 gallons in just minutes, rehydrating rapidly. Contrary to popular belief, camels do not store water in their humps. The humps contain fat, which the body can break down into energy and water when needed. This fat reserve allows camels to travel vast distances across deserts, where food and water are scarce. They are living ships of the desert, carrying everything they need within themselves. Fact 13. Many desert plants have roots that go incredibly deep. The mesquite tree, common in deserts of the southwestern United States and Mexico, can send roots down over 100 feet into the ground, searching for underground water sources. These deep roots anchor the tree and allow it to access moisture that surface plants cannot reach. Above ground, the mesquite looks modest, almost humble, but below it is connected to a hidden world of water and minerals flowing slowly through stone and sand. It is a reminder that what we see on the surface is rarely the whole story. Fact 14. Some lizards have special adaptations to walk on hot sand. The shovel-snouted lizard of the Namib Desert performs a dance when the sand becomes too hot. It lifts 2 legs at a time, alternating sides, holding them in the air to cool while balancing on the other 2. When even this is not enough, it dives beneath the surface where the sand is cooler. Watching this lizard move is like watching a tiny ballet performed on a stage of fire. Every movement is precise, necessary, elegant. It is survival turned into art. Fact 15. The Namib Desert is home to one of the strangest plants on Earth. The Welwitschia plant can live for over 1,000 years, and some specimens are thought to be more than 2,000 years old. It has only 2 leaves, which grow continuously throughout its life, splitting and fraying into ribbons that sprawl across the ground. The plant looks alien, ancient, almost uncomfortable. But it has survived in one of the harshest deserts on the planet for longer than most human civilizations have existed. It drinks fog. It endures sandstorms. It simply continues, year after year, decade after decade, century after century. Fact 16. Fog is a vital source of water in some coastal deserts. The Namib Desert and parts of the Atacama Desert receive almost no rain, but they are bathed in thick fog that rolls in from the ocean. Beetles, plants, and other organisms have evolved ways to harvest this fog. The Namib Desert beetle tilts its body into the wind, and tiny droplets of fog condense on its textured back, then roll down into its mouth. It is drinking air, it is pulling life from mist. In the most inhospitable places, nature finds solutions we could never have imagined. Fact 17. Deserts are often incredibly quiet. Without dense vegetation to absorb and scatter sound, noise travels differently in the desert. Sometimes it carries for miles, other times it seems swallowed by the vastness. In the deep desert, away from roads and cities, you can experience a silence so complete that you hear your own heartbeat. The rustle of your clothing, the faint whistle of air moving in and out of your lungs. This silence can be unsettling at first, but if you let yourself sink into it, it becomes peaceful. It becomes a kind of rest that is hard to find anywhere else in the modern world. Fact 18. The Gobi Desert in Asia is a cold desert. Winter temperatures can drop far below 0 and snow sometimes covers the dunes. It is a desert of extremes, scorching in summer and frozen in winter. Nomadic herders have lived in and around the Gobi for thousands of years, moving with their animals to find water and grazing land. They understand the rhythms of the desert in ways outsiders never could. They read the wind, the stars, the behavior of animals. They carry knowledge passed down through generations, knowledge that cannot be written in books but must be lived and felt. Fact 19. Sandstorms can be enormous and terrifying. In some deserts, walls of sand and dust can rise thousands of feet into the air, blotting out the sun and turning day into night. These storms can travel hundreds of miles, carrying sand from one continent to another. Saharan dust regularly crosses the Atlantic Ocean and falls in the Amazon rainforest, where it provides essential nutrients to the soil. The desert feeds the jungle. The dry place nourishes the wet. The Earth is connected in ways that remind us everything is part of one vast breathing system. Fact 20. Desert nights can be stunningly clear. With little moisture in the air and often no light pollution for hundreds of miles, the stars appear in numbers and brightness that people in cities can scarcely imagine. The Milky Way stretches overhead like a river of light. Planets glow steadily. Meteors streak across the darkness. Ancient peoples navigated by these stars, told stories by their patterns, measured time by their movements. In the desert night, you feel small, but you also feel connected to something infinite and timeless. Fact 21. The saguaro cactus, iconic symbol of the American Southwest, can live for over 150 years. It grows slowly, sometimes taking 10 years to grow just an inch. A saguaro does not even begin to grow its first arm until it's about 75 years old. These towering cacti can reach heights of 40 feet or more, and they provide homes for birds, bats, and insects. When a saguaro finally dies, its wooden ribs remain standing for years, bleached white by the sun, a skeleton testament to a long life lived in one of the hardest places on Earth. Fact 22. Oases are places where underground water reaches the surface. They're islands of green in seas of sand. Palm trees grow tall, grasses spread, birds sing. For travellers crossing the desert, an oasis is life itself. Ancient trade routes were planned from oasis to oasis, and entire communities grew around these precious water sources. Some oases have been inhabited for thousands of years. They are proof that even in the driest places, water flows beneath, hidden but never truly gone. And where there is water, there is hope. Fact 23. Many desert animals are nocturnal. They sleep during the scorching day and emerge at night when temperatures drop. Snakes, scorpions, foxes and rodents come alive under the moon. The desert night is not quiet at all. It hums with activity, with hunting and feeding and the business of survival. These animals have traded the sun for the stars. They have learned that in the desert the night is kinder than the day. Fact 24. Scorpions glow under ultraviolet light. If you walk through a desert at night with a UV flashlight, scorpions scattered across the ground will light up like little blue-green lanterns. Scientists are still not entirely sure why they do this. Some think it helps them detect UV light levels to know when to hide from the sun. Others think it might have no purpose at all, just a quirk of their body chemistry, but the effect is magical. The desert floor becomes a constellation, each scorpion a tiny star. Fact 25. Deserts are places of transformation. They strip away excess. They demand adaptation. They teach patience and humility. Many cultures have sent people into the desert to seek wisdom, to fast, to pray, to find themselves in the vastness and silence. There is something about the desert that clarifies. It removes distractions. It shows you what matters. Not everyone loves the desert. It is harsh and unforgiving. But for those who learn its language, who respect its power, the desert offers a kind of peace found nowhere else on earth. Fact 26. The Arabian Desert covers most of the Arabian Peninsula and is one of the sandiest deserts in the world. It holds the Rub al-Khali, which means the empty quarter in English. This is the largest continuous sand desert on Earth, a sea of dunes that stretches across an area larger than France. The sand here is so fine and soft that it flows like water in the wind. Dunes shift and change shape constantly. What was a valley yesterday might be a hill tomorrow. Travellers in ancient times feared getting lost in the empty quarter because landmarks disappeared, erased by wind overnight. Even today, with modern navigation tools, it remains a place of profound isolation and beauty. The silence there is absolute. The heat is extreme. Yet Bedouin people have crossed it for centuries, reading signs in the sand that others cannot see, following paths that exist only in memory and tradition. Fact 27. Desert soil is often very poor in nutrients. Without regular rain to break down organic matter and without many plants to create that matter in the first place, desert soil can be almost lifeless. It is often salty, alkaline, or so compacted that roots cannot penetrate it easily. But when rain does come, even this harsh soil can support life. Seeds that have been dormant for years suddenly sprout. The ground turns green almost overnight. This transformation is brief but spectacular. It shows that potential lies hidden even in the most barren-looking places. The soil was not dead. It was only waiting. And when conditions became right, it revealed what it had been holding inside all along. Fact 28. The Mojave Desert in the United States is home to the Joshua tree, a strange and beautiful plant that looks like something from a dream. Joshua trees are actually not trees at all, but a type of yucca plant. They grow twisted and irregular, with spiky leaves clustered at the ends of their branches. Some Joshua trees are hundreds of years old. They grow so slowly that a tree 10 feet tall might be 80 years old. Early Mormon settlers traveling through the Mojave thought these plants looked like the biblical figure Joshua raising his arms to the sky, and so they gave the plant its name. The Joshua tree has become a symbol of the Mojave, standing alone or in groves across the rocky desert, a reminder that life takes many forms, and not all of them look the way we expect. Fact 29. Sand dunes move. Over time, wind pushes sand grains up the gentle slope on one side of a dune, and they tumble down the steep slope on the other side. Slowly, grain by grain, the entire dune creeps forward. Some dunes move only a few feet per year. Others, in areas with strong, steady winds, can move over 100 feet in a year. This movement can bury roads, buildings, and even whole villages. In some desert regions, people fight a constant battle to keep the dunes from swallowing their homes, but the dunes are patient and relentless. They move with the rhythm of the wind, unstoppable as time itself. Fact 30. Addax antelopes are desert animals perfectly adapted to extreme heat. They have broad hooves that act like snowshoes on soft sand, keeping them from sinking. Their coats are pale, almost white, reflecting sunlight and helping them stay cool. Addax can go their entire lives without drinking water, getting all the moisture they need from the plants they eat. They can also sense rain from miles away, and will travel long distances to reach areas where plants are growing after a storm. Sadly, the addax is now critically endangered, hunted nearly to extinction, and struggling as their desert habitat shrinks. These graceful creatures once roamed across the Sahara in large herds. Now only a few hundred remain in the wild, ghosts of a species that once thrived in the harshest conditions on Earth. Fact 31. The Sonoran Desert, which stretches across parts of the United States and Mexico, is one of the wettest and most biologically diverse deserts in the world. It receives rain twice a year, once in winter and once in summer during the monsoon season. This double rainy season allows for an incredible variety of plants and animals. The Sonoran is home to more species of cactus than any other desert, including the giant saguaro and the organ-pipe cactus. It is also home to javelinas, roadrunners, Gila monsters, and hundreds of bird species. Compared to other deserts, the Sonoran feels almost lush, but it is still a desert, still a place where water is precious and survival is never guaranteed. Fact 32. Flash floods are one of the most dangerous events in the desert. Because desert soil is often hard and compacted, it does not absorb water well. When a heavy rain falls even miles away in distant mountains, the water runs off quickly and funnels into dry washes and canyons. Within minutes, a narrow canyon that was completely dry can fill wall to wall with a roaring torrent of water, mud, and debris. These flash floods are powerful enough to move boulders the size of cars. They appear suddenly, often under clear skies, because the rain that caused them fell somewhere far away. People hiking in desert canyons must always be aware of the weather, even weather they cannot see. The desert does not forgive carelessness. It demands respect and attention. Fact 33. The Kalahari Desert in southern Africa is not a true desert by the strictest definition, because some parts receive slightly more than 10 inches of rain per year, but it is still a vast, dry, sandy region that stretches across Botswana, Namibia, and South Africa. The Kalahari is home to the San people, one of the oldest continuous cultures on Earth. The San have lived in harmony with this harsh land for thousands of years, developing deep knowledge of every plant, every animal, every water source. They can find water underground by reading the behavior of animals and the growth patterns of certain plants. They can track an animal for days across hard ground where others would see no trace. Their survival is not luck, it is skill, passed down through countless generations, refined and perfected over millennia. Fact 34. Desert roses are not flowers but beautiful crystal formations that form in sandy desert soil. When water containing minerals evaporates, it leaves behind deposits of gypsum or barite that crystallize into shapes resembling rose petals. These formations can be tiny or as large as a human head. They are smooth and delicate looking, though they are made of stone. People collect them as natural art, as reminders that beauty can form in the most unlikely places. The desert rose grows not from a seed but from the slow, patient work of water and mineral and time. It is geology becoming sculpture. It is the desert creating something lovely out of nothing but sand and chemistry. Fact 35. Dust devils are small whirlwinds that form on hot desert days. They look like miniature tornadoes made of dust and sand spinning across the desert floor. Most are harmless, only a few feet wide and lasting just a few minutes, but some can grow large and strong enough to lift debris and cause damage. Dust devils form when hot air near the ground rises rapidly and begins to spin. They are common in deserts because the intense heat and open flat terrain create perfect conditions for them. Watching a dust devil dance across the sand is mesmerizing. It seems almost alive, moving with purpose, swirling and twisting as if searching for something only it understands. Fact 36. The Patagonian Desert in Argentina is the largest desert in the Americas. It lies in the rain shadow of the Andes Mountains, which block moisture from the Pacific Ocean. The land here is cold, windy, and dry, covered mostly in scrub and gravel. It does not look like the deserts of movies and postcards. There are no towering dunes, no cacti. Instead, there are vast plateaus, rocky hills, and sparse grasslands where guanacos and rheas roam. The wind here is relentless, shaping the land and everything that grows on it. Trees, where they manage to grow at all, are bent and twisted by constant wind. The Patagonian desert teaches us that deserts come in many forms, and not all of them match our expectations. Fact 37. Many desert insects have developed ways to survive extreme temperatures. Some ants can withstand body temperatures that would kill most other creatures. The Saharan silver ant can forage on sand that reaches over 150 degrees Fahrenheit. It moves incredibly fast, racing across the burning sand for only a few minutes in the middle of the day when predators are hiding from the heat. Its body is covered in tiny silver hairs that reflect heat and light. This ant is one of the fastest insects in the world relative to its size. It has to be. Every second on the scorching sand is dangerous, but in those brief minutes, it finds food, carries it home, and disappears back underground where temperatures are bearable. Speed and timing mean survival. Fact 38. The Australian outback is a massive desert region covering much of the interior of Australia. It is one of the oldest landscapes on Earth, with rocks and landforms that have existed for hundreds of millions of years. The outback is home to unique wildlife found nowhere else, including kangaroos, emus, dingoes, and the thorny devil lizard. Aboriginal Australians have lived in the outback for over 50,000 years, developing complex knowledge systems about the land, water sources, seasonal changes, and animal behaviour. Their connection to the desert is spiritual and practical, woven into stories, songs, and ceremonies that map the land in ways that go far deeper than any written map. The outback is not empty. It is full of history, culture, and life that thrives in ways outsiders are only beginning to understand. Fact 39. Some desert plants can close their pores during the day to prevent water loss and open them at night to take in carbon dioxide. This process is called CAM photosynthesis, which stands for crassulacean acid metabolism. Most plants open their pores during the day to absorb carbon dioxide for photosynthesis, but this also allows water to escape. Desert plants have reversed the process. They collect carbon dioxide at night when it's cooler and store it, then use it for photosynthesis during the day while keeping their pores closed. This adaptation allows them to survive in places where opening pores during the heat of the day would mean death by dehydration. It is a small adjustment, invisible to the naked eye, but it makes all the difference. Fact 40. The Dead Sea, located between Jordan and Israel, sits in a desert region and is one of the saltiest bodies of water on Earth. It is so salty that almost nothing can live in it, which is how it got its name. The water is nearly 10 times saltier than the ocean. This extreme salinity makes the water incredibly dense, so dense that people float effortlessly on the surface. The shores of the Dead Sea are the lowest point on Earth's land surface, over 1,400 feet below sea level. The surrounding desert is harsh and barren, but the sea itself has been valued for thousands of years for its minerals and mud, believed to have healing properties. People have travelled to the Dead Sea since ancient times, seeking relief from ailments, seeking the strange sensation of floating without effort in water that feels thick and oily. Fact 41. Camels have a double row of eyelashes and can close their nostrils completely. These adaptations protect them from sandstorms. When the wind picks up and sand begins to fly, a camel can seal itself off, closing its nose and shielding its eyes while continuing to walk forward. Their thick eyebrows also provide shade and additional protection. Camels are built for the desert in every possible way. Their wide feet distribute their weight so they do not sink into sand. Their thick fur insulates them from both heat and cold. Even their blood cells are oval-shaped rather than round, which allows them to flow more easily when the camel is dehydrated. Every detail of a camel's body is a solution to a problem the desert presents. Fact 42. The Great Basin. Desert in the United States is a cold desert, one of the few in North America. It lies in the rain shadow of the Sierra Nevada mountains and experiences cold winters with snow and hot, dry summers. Sagebrush covers much of the landscape, giving the desert a grey-green colour very different from the reds and golds of hotter deserts. The Great Basin is high in elevation, much of it over 4,000 feet above sea level. The air is thin and clear. At night, temperatures drop sharply. This desert does not have the dramatic dunes or towering cacti of other deserts, but it has a stark beauty all its own, a quiet emptiness that stretches to distant mountain ranges on every horizon. Fact 43. Desert varnish is a dark coating that forms on rocks in arid environments. It is made of clay minerals and oxides of iron and manganese. Scientists are still not completely sure how it forms, but it seems to involve bacteria, wind-blown dust, and thousands of years of slow chemical reactions. Desert varnish can be black, brown, or reddish, and it often covers entire cliff faces and boulders. Ancient peoples carved through this varnish to create petroglyphs, pictures, and symbols that stand out pale against the dark coating. Some of these carvings are thousands of years old, messages from people long gone, still visible because the desert preserves what wetter climates would erase. The varnish protects the rock beneath it, and in doing so, it protects the stories written there. Fact 44. Roadrunners are birds famous in the deserts of the southwestern United States and Mexico. They are fast runners capable of sprinting at speeds up to 20 miles per hour. Roadrunners prefer to run rather than fly, using their long legs to chase down lizards, snakes, insects, and even small rodents. They are one of the few animals that can kill and eat rattlesnakes. A roadrunner will grab a snake behind the head and slam it against the ground repeatedly until it stops moving. Roadrunners are tough, resourceful, and perfectly suited to desert life. They can lower their body temperature at night to conserve energy and raise it again in the morning by sunbathing. They are survivors in every sense of the word. Fact 45. The Taklamakan Desert in China is one of the largest sandy deserts in the world. Its name is sometimes translated as place of no return or go in and you won't come out, which tells you something about its reputation. The Taklamakan sits in the Tarim Basin, surrounded by mountains. It is extremely dry and difficult to cross. Ancient trade routes of the Silk Road skirted around its edges rather than attempting to cross through the centre. Cities and oases along these routes became wealthy and powerful, serving as rest stops for merchants carrying silk, spices, and precious goods between east and west. The desert itself remained largely untouched, a vast expanse of dunes and dust that travellers avoided whenever possible. Today, a highway crosses the Taklamakan, protected from the shifting sands by carefully planted vegetation and constant maintenance. But the desert is still there, still waiting, still ready to reclaim the road if people ever stop fighting to keep it open. Fact 46. Many desert snakes are sidewinders, moving across the sand in a distinctive S-shaped motion. Instead of slithering straight forward, they throw their body sideways in loops, so only two small sections of their body touch the hot sand at any given time. This reduces contact with the scorching surface and also provides better traction on loose sand. The sidewinder rattlesnake of North American deserts and the horned viper of African and Middle Eastern deserts both use this method. Watching a sidewinder move is strange and hypnotic. It seems to flow across the sand, leaving behind a series of parallel J-shaped tracks. It is a perfect example of evolution solving a problem in an unexpected way. Fact 47. The Chihuahuan Desert is the largest desert in North America, covering parts of Mexico and the southwestern United States. It is a high desert sitting mostly above 3,000 feet in elevation. The Chihuahuan Desert is known for its incredible diversity of cacti, including many species found nowhere else. It is also home to pronghorn antelope, the second fastest land animal in the world. Pronghorns can run at speeds over 50 miles per hour and maintain high speeds for long distances. They evolved this speed millions of years ago, possibly to escape predators that are now extinct. Today, they have few natural predators that can catch them, but they still run as if something ancient and dangerous is chasing them. Speed is in their blood, written into their bones, a legacy of a time we can only imagine. Fact 48. Fairy circles are mysterious bare patches of ground surrounded by rings of grass that appear in the deserts of Namibia and parts of Australia. These circles can be a few feet or over 30 feet in diameter. For years, scientists debated what caused them. Some thought the termites, Others thought it was plants competing for water. Still others thought it might be gases seeping from underground. Recent research suggests it might be a combination of factors, a complex interaction between termites, water distribution, and plant growth. But even with explanations, fairy circles retain an air of mystery. They appear and disappear over years or decades. From the air they look like polka dots scattered across the desert, as if the land itself is decorated with purpose and pattern. Some local legends say they are the footprints of spirits. Whether you believe science or story, they are beautiful and strange, and they remind us the desert is full of things we do not fully understand. Fact 49. Xerophytes are plants specially adapted to survive with very little water. The word comes from Greek, meaning dry plant. Xerophytes have developed various strategies to cope with drought. Some have thick waxy coatings that prevent water loss. Some have tiny leaves, or no leaves at all to reduce the surface area where evaporation can occur. Others have extensive root systems that spread wide or dig deep. Still others store water in their stems or roots. Every desert plant is a xerophyte of some kind, a specialist in the art of staying alive when staying alive should be impossible. They do not merely tolerate the desert, they are made for it, shaped by it, inseparable from it. Fact 50. The colour of sand varies widely depending on its mineral content. Most sand is made of quartz and appears tan or golden. But sand can also be white, red, black, or even pink. White Sands National Park in New Mexico is covered in brilliant white sand made of gypsum crystals. The dunes there are cool to the touch even in summer because gypsum does not absorb heat the way quartz does. The sand sparkles in the sun like snow. Red and orange sands, common in deserts like the Sahara and the Australian outback, get their colour from iron oxide, essentially rust coating the grains. Black sand comes from volcanic minerals. Each colour tells a story about the geology of the region, about the rocks that broke down over millions of years to become the sand we see today. The desert is a library written in stone and dust. Fact 51. The fennel fox, also called the fennec fox, is the smallest fox in the world and lives in the Sahara Desert. It has enormous ears, sometimes nearly half the length of its entire body. These ears are not just for hearing, they also help the fox stay cool by radiating heat away from its body. The blood vessels in the ears release warmth into the air, acting like natural radiators. Fennec foxes are nocturnal, spending the hot day in underground burrows and emerging at night to hunt insects, rodents, and small birds. Their thick fur, which seems like it would make them hotter, actually insulates them from the heat during the day and keeps them warm during cold desert nights. Their feet are covered in fur too, which protects them from burning sand. These tiny foxes are incredibly cute, but they are also tough survivors, perfectly designed for one of the harshest environments on Earth. Fact 52. Salt flats are common features in some desert regions. These are vast flat areas where ancient lakes have dried up, leaving behind a thick crust of salt. The Salar de Uyuni in Bolivia is the largest salt flat in the world, covering over 4,000 square miles. When it rains, a thin layer of water covers the salt, creating a perfect mirror that reflects the sky. Standing on the salt flat during these moments feels like standing in the clouds. The horizon disappears. Earth and sky become one. The salt itself is mined and used, but the flats also contain valuable minerals like lithium, which is used in batteries for phones and electric cars. These empty-looking places, left over from ancient seas, are becoming increasingly important to modern technology. The past and future meet in these silent white expanses. Fact 53. Kangaroo rats are not related to kangaroos at all, but they hop like them. These small rodents live in the deserts of North America and have powerful hind legs that allow them to jump several feet in a single bound. This jumping helps them escape predators like snakes and owls. Kangaroo rats live in burrows with multiple entrances and chambers. They plug the entrances during the day to keep the burrow cool and humid. The air inside their burrows can be much more moist than the air outside, which helps them conserve water. They collect seeds and store them in their burrows, and the seeds actually absorb moisture from the air, providing the kangaroo rat with additional water. Every aspect of their life is carefully balanced to survive without ever drinking. They are engineers of their own small world, creating conditions where survival is possible. Fact 54. The Thar Desert, also called the Great Indian Desert, stretches across northwestern India and into Pakistan. It is one of the most densely populated deserts in the world. Millions of people live in villages and cities within the Thar, farming, herding animals and trading. Despite the harsh conditions, human civilization has thrived here for thousands of years. Ancient cities, forts, and temples dot the landscape. The people of the Thar have developed deep knowledge of where to find water, which plants can be eaten, and how to build homes that stay cool in summer and warm in winter. They wear bright colours, perhaps as a contrast to the brown and tan desert around them. Festivals and music are important parts of life. The Thar Desert is proof that deserts are not barriers to human culture. They are places where culture takes unique and beautiful forms. Fact 55. Dust from the Sahara Desert travels across the Atlantic Ocean every year, carried by winds high in the atmosphere. This dust eventually falls in the Caribbean, in South America, and even as far as the United States. The Amazon rainforest actually depends on this dust. It contains phosphorus and other nutrients that are washed out of rainforest soil by heavy rains. The Sahara dust replenishes these nutrients, feeding the jungle from thousands of miles away. One of the driest places on Earth helps sustain one of the wettest. It is a connection most people never think about, a thread linking two completely different ecosystems. The wind writes invisible lines across the planet, carrying pieces of one world into another, reminding us that nothing exists in isolation. Fact 56. The horned lizard, sometimes called a horny toad even though it is not a toad, lives in deserts across North America. It has a flat round body covered in spiky scales and small horns on its head. When threatened, it can puff up its body to look bigger and more difficult to swallow. Some species have an even stranger defense. They can squirt blood from the corners of their eyes. This blood tastes bad to predators like coyotes and foxes, who quickly learn to leave horned lizards alone. The lizard can shoot this blood several feet. It sounds like something from a science fiction story, but it is real, a bizarre and effective survival tool. The horned lizard also eats mainly ants, crunching through hundreds of them each day. It is slow-moving and patient, sitting perfectly still until ants come close enough to catch with a quick flick of its sticky tongue. Fact 57. Desert pavement is a surface of tightly packed stones that covers the ground in some desert areas. From a distance, it looks almost like a cobblestone road, but it is entirely natural. Desert pavement forms over thousands of years. Wind blows away fine sand and dust, leaving behind only larger stones. These stones settle into place, fitting together like puzzle pieces. Once formed, desert pavement is quite stable and resists erosion much better than loose sand. Vehicle tracks or footprints can damage desert pavement, and the damage can last for decades or even centuries, because the process that created it is so slow. In some places, ancient peoples arranged stones on desert pavement to create large designs called geoglyphs, pictures that can only be fully seen from the air. These designs have survived for hundreds or thousands of years because the desert pavement protects them. Fact 58. The Negev Desert covers more than half of Israel. It is a desert of rocky hills, craters, and canyons rather than sand dunes. The Negev has been inhabited for thousands of years. Ancient peoples developed sophisticated methods of collecting and storing water, building cisterns and channels to catch every drop of rain. The Nabateans, who lived in the Negev over 2,000 years ago, built entire cities in the desert, including the famous city of Petra just across the border in Jordan. They controlled trade routes and grew wealthy from spices and incense that passed through their land. Today the Negev is home to farms that use advanced irrigation techniques to grow crops in the desert. Researchers experiment with solar power and desert agriculture, looking for ways to make dry lands more productive. The Negev is a place where past and future come together, where ancient wisdom and modern science both seek answers to the same question: how do we live in the desert? Fact 59. Burrowing owls are small owls that live in underground burrows in desert and grassland regions. Unlike most owls, they are active during the day. They stand on long legs outside their burrows, bobbing up and down and swiveling their heads to watch for danger. Burrowing owls often take over burrows abandoned by prairie dogs or ground squirrels, but they can dig their own if necessary. They line their burrows with dried animal dung, which may help mask their scent from predators, or attract insects that they can eat. These little owls have bright yellow eyes and a serious expression that makes them look wise and stern. They hunt insects, small rodents, and reptiles. When threatened, they retreat into their burrows and make a rattling hiss that sounds remarkably like a rattlesnake, which is often enough to scare away predators. Fact 60. The Danakil Depression in Ethiopia is one of the hottest and lowest places on Earth. It sits over 400 feet below sea level and regularly experiences temperatures above 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The landscape looks alien, with sulfur springs, salt flats, lava lakes, and pools of acid. Bright yellow, orange, and green colours stain the ground where minerals and chemicals seep from the earth. Despite these extreme conditions, people live in the Danakil Depression. The Afar people mine salt from the flats, just as their ancestors have done for centuries. They cut blocks of salt and load them onto camels, then travel for days to sell them at markets. It is brutally hard work in brutally hard conditions. But the salt is valuable, and the Afar people have adapted to life in a place that seems designed to be uninhabitable. They know where to find water, they know how to survive the heat. They are proof that humans can adapt to almost anything. Fact 61. Mirages are optical illusions that occur in deserts and other hot flat places. They happen when light bends as it passes through layers of air at different temperatures. On a hot day, the air near the ground is much hotter than the air above it. Light coming from the sky bends as it passes through these layers, creating an image that looks like water on the ground. Travellers see what appears to be a lake in the distance, shimmering and blue, but as they get closer it vanishes. It was never there. The human brain interprets the bent light as a reflection on water because that is what makes sense. Mirages have fooled people for as long as people have crossed deserts. They are beautiful and cruel at the same time, offering hope where there is none. They are the desert playing tricks, reminding us not to trust everything we see. Fact 62. The Pinnacles. Desert in Australia is filled with thousands of limestone pillars that rise from the sand. Some are just a few feet tall, others reach 10 feet or more. They look like ancient ruins or the work of some unknown sculptor, but they formed naturally. Millions of years ago, the area was covered by ocean. Shells accumulated on the seafloor and compressed into limestone. Later, the sea retreated and plants grew on the limestone. Rainwater mixed with decaying plants to form a weak acid that dissolved some of the limestone, leaving behind the harder pillars. Over time, wind blew away the sand covering them, revealing the strange forest of stone we see today. Walking through the pinnacles feels like walking on another planet. The pillars cast long shadows. The silence is deep. It is a place that makes you stop and wonder about the immense stretches of time required to create something like this. Fact 63. Many desert animals have light-coloured fur or scales. This coloration helps them blend into the sand and rocks, providing camouflage from predators and prey. It also reflects sunlight, helping them stay cooler. The pale colour of desert animals is so common that it has a name: desert coloration. From snakes to rodents to foxes to birds, countless desert creatures are tan, beige, cream or pale grey. But there are exceptions. Some desert animals are darker, especially those that are nocturnal and spend the day hidden underground. Colour is one of many tools desert animals use to survive. It is a solution written in their very skin, an adaptation painted by thousands of generations facing the same harsh sun. Fact 64. The Karakum Desert in Central Asia covers most of Turkmenistan. Its name means black sand in the Turkic language, though much of it is covered in grey and brown sand rather than black. The Karakum is a cold winter desert with hot summers. One of the strangest features of the Karakum is the Darvazag gas crater, often called the door to hell. In 1971, Soviet engineers were drilling for natural gas when the ground collapsed, creating a large crater. Worried that the crater was releasing dangerous gases, they decided to burn it off, expecting it would burn out in a few weeks. It has been burning ever since. The crater is about 200 feet wide and glows with flames day and night. At night, the orange light can be seen from miles away. It looks like a portal to another world, a wound in the earth that never heals. Tourists now visit the crater, camping nearby and watching the flames. It is a reminder of human mistakes and the power of nature, burning together in the middle of nowhere. Fact 65. Sand grouse are birds that live in deserts across Africa, Asia and southern Europe. They have a remarkable way of bringing water to their chicks. Adult sand grouse fly to water sources, sometimes travelling dozens of miles. The males wade into the water and soak their belly feathers, which are specially adapted to hold liquid like a sponge. Then they fly back to the nest where the chicks suck the water from the feathers. The feathers can hold enough water to keep the chicks hydrated. This behavior is unique among birds. It shows the extraordinary lengths desert animals will go to raise their young in an environment where water is scarce. The sandgrouse does not complain. It does not give up. It flies, it soaks, it returns, it does what must be done. Fact 66. The Simpson Desert in central Australia is known for its long parallel sand dunes. These dunes run north to south for hundreds of miles, created by winds that have blown in the same direction for thousands of years. The dunes are stabilised by spinifex grass, a tough spiky plant that can survive on very little water. Aboriginal Australians have travelled through the Simpson Desert for tens of thousands of years, following traditional routes and knowing where to find water. European explorers struggled in the Simpson. Many attempts to cross it failed. It was not until 1936 that a European explorer successfully crossed the desert from south to north. What took the explorer weeks of dangerous struggle was well-known territory to the indigenous peoples who had always lived there. Knowledge matters more than technology in the desert. Understanding matters more than bravery. Respect matters more than conquest. Fact 67. The ocotillo is a desert plant found in the southwestern United States and Mexico. It looks dead most of the year. Just a bundle of thorny grey sticks poking out of the ground. But when rain comes, it performs a resurrection. Within days, small green leaves sprout all along the stems. The plant photosynthesizes quickly, taking advantage of the brief moisture. When the soil dries out again, the leaves fall off and the ocotillo returns to its dormant state. It can repeat this cycle several times in a single year, responding to each rain. In spring, bright red tubular flowers bloom at the tips of the stems, attracting hummingbirds. The ocotillo is a master of flexibility, shifting between life and dormancy as conditions change. It does not waste energy trying to stay green when there is no water. It waits, it endures, and when the moment is right, it comes alive again. Fact 68. Desert bighorn sheep live in the rugged mountain ranges scattered throughout North American deserts. They are incredible climbers, able to scale nearly vertical cliffs with ease. Their hooves have a hard outer edge and a soft inner pad that grips rock like rubber. Bighorn sheep can go for days without water, getting moisture from the plants they eat. But they need to drink eventually, and they remember the locations of springs and seeps across vast territories. Older sheep teach younger ones where the water is, passing down knowledge that is essential for survival. Bighorn sheep populations have declined in many areas due to habitat loss, hunting, and diseases from domestic sheep. Conservation efforts are working to protect them, but it is a difficult process. These sheep are symbols of the wild desert, animals that belong to the cliffs and canyons, and losing them would mean losing part of the desert's soul. Fact 69. The Lut Desert in Iran holds the record for the highest land surface temperature ever recorded. Satellite measurements have shown temperatures in the Lut reaching over 159 degrees Fahrenheit. This is not air temperature, but the temperature of the ground itself. At these temperatures, nothing can survive on the surface. The Lut Desert has areas covered in black volcanic rock that absorbs heat intensely. It also has huge sand dunes and strange wind-carved formations called kaluts, which look like the ruins of ancient cities. The Lut is one of the driest deserts on Earth. In some parts, no life exists at all, not even bacteria. It is as close to lifeless as Earth gets. Yet even the Lut has areas with some vegetation and animals near the edges. Life presses against the boundaries of the impossible, always testing, always searching for a foothold. Fact 70. Tarantulas are large spiders that live in many deserts around the world. Despite their fearsome reputation, most tarantulas are not dangerous to humans. Their venom is mild, comparable to a bee sting. Desert tarantulas spend most of their time in burrows, emerging at night to hunt insects and other small prey. Male tarantulas wander during mating season, which is when people most often encounter them. Females can live for over 20 years, spending their long lives in the same burrow, patient and solitary. Tarantulas are ambush predators, sitting still until prey comes close enough to grab. They move slowly most of the time, conserving energy. In the desert, everything is about conserving energy and water. Even the spiders understand this. Even the hunters know that in a place of scarcity, patience is more valuable than speed. Fact 71. The Atacama Desert is so dry that it is used to test equipment for Mars missions. The soil and climate are more similar to Mars than almost anywhere else on Earth. Scientists study microbes in the Atacama to understand how life might survive on other planets. They test rovers and instruments in the desert because if technology can work in the Atacama, it might work on Mars. This desert has become a bridge between worlds, a place where we practice for journeys to other planets. It is humbling to think that one of the harshest places on Earth is still far more hospitable than the kindest place on Mars. Our planet, even at its most extreme, is a paradise compared to the cold, dead deserts of other worlds. The Atacama reminds us to appreciate Earth, to recognize that even its deserts are full of wonders we are only beginning to understand. Fact 72. Dry lakes, also called playas, are common in desert basins. These are flat areas where water occasionally collects after rare rains, forming shallow temporary lakes. When the water evaporates, it leaves behind a smooth, hard surface of dried mud or salt. Some playas are perfectly flat, making them useful for racing vehicles and even landing aircraft. The Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah are a famous playa where land speed records have been set. Driving across a playa feels like driving on the moon. There are no landmarks, no variations in the surface. The horizon is a perfect line. The sky seems enormous. It is easy to get disoriented because there is nothing to judge distance or direction. Playas are empty stages waiting for water that may not come for years. They are patient, indifferent, silent. Fact 73. The roadrunner is the state bird of New Mexico, and it holds a special place in the culture of the American Southwest. Indigenous peoples saw the roadrunner as a symbol of speed and courage. Its tracks look like an X, which some cultures believed could ward off evil. Roadrunners are real tricksters, bold and clever. They will steal food from other animals and are not afraid to approach humans if they think there might be something to eat. They make a variety of sounds, including a soft cooing and a rapid clacking noise made by snapping their beaks together. Watching a roadrunner is always entertaining. They move with quick, jerky motions, stopping suddenly to tilt their head and stare with bright, curious eyes. They seem always alert, always thinking, always planning their next move. Fact 74. The White Desert in Egypt is a surreal landscape of chalk rock formations sculpted by wind into bizarre shapes. Mushrooms, towers, pillars, and abstract sculptures cover the desert floor. The rock is bright white, and in the intense sunlight, it glows almost painfully bright. At sunset, the formations turn pink and orange. At night under the moon, they look like ghosts frozen in stone. The White Desert feels like walking through a dream or a painting. Nothing looks quite real. The formations are fragile. They crumble easily, and over time wind continues to reshape them. What stands today may be gone in 100 years, replaced by new shapes carved by the same patient wind. The White Desert is art created by nature, a gallery without walls, an exhibition that has been running for millions of years and will continue long after humans are gone. Fact 75. Many desert cultures have developed unique music and art that reflects their environment. The songs of Bedouin people often speak of travel, of camels, of longing for water and green places. The patterns woven into Navajo rugs echo the shapes of desert mazes and the colours of sand and sky. Aboriginal Australians create paintings that map the land in symbolic form, showing water sources, animal tracks, and sacred sites. These are not just decorations. They are records, stories, and survival guides wrapped into beauty. Desert peoples have always understood that culture is not separate from survival. Songs help people remember where water can be found. Stories teach young people how to read the land. Patterns and symbols carry information across generations. In the desert, art is practical, beauty is useful, and memory is everything. Fact 76. The saguaro cactus has a lifespan that can stretch beyond 200 years in some cases. These giants of the Sonoran Desert grow incredibly slowly in their early years. A 10-year-old saguaro might be only 2 inches tall. It takes about 30 years for a saguaro to begin flowering, and those flowers only open at night. They bloom white and beautiful, releasing a sweet scent that attracts bats, bees, and birds. By morning, the flowers have closed, and they never open again. Each flower blooms just once. The bats that pollinate saguaro flowers migrate hundreds of miles following the blooming season of different cacti. The relationship between the saguaro and the bats is ancient and essential. Without bats, fewer saguaros would produce fruit. Without saguaros, the bats would have less food along their migration route. They need each other. In the desert, these connections matter. Nothing survives alone. Everything is woven together in ways that become clear only when you look closely and patiently at how life works in these dry places. Fact 77. Desert tortoises are slow-moving reptiles that live in the deserts of the southwestern United States. They can live for 50 to 80 years, spending up to 95% of their lives in underground burrows. These burrows protect them from extreme heat and cold. Desert tortoises dig their burrows in the sides of washes and hills, creating tunnels that can be over 30 feet long. Inside, the temperature remains much more stable than outside. During the hottest part of summer and the coldest part of winter, the tortoises stay underground in a state of dormancy. They emerge in spring and fall when temperatures are moderate and food is available. Desert tortoises eat grasses, wildflowers, and cacti. They get most of their water from the plants they eat, but they also drink when they find standing water. They can store water in their bladder and reabsorb it later when needed. Desert tortoises are threatened by habitat loss, disease, and illegal collection. It takes a long time for tortoise populations to recover because they reproduce slowly. Females do not begin laying eggs until they are 15 to 20 years old. Protecting these ancient reptiles means protecting the desert itself, ensuring that the burrows and plants and quiet rhythms of desert life continue. Fact 78. The empty quarter, or Rub al-Khali, is a place of profound silence and emptiness. It is the kind of place where you can hear your own pulse in your ears. The dunes there can reach heights of over 800 feet, some of the tallest sand dunes on Earth. Climbing these dunes is exhausting. The sand gives way beneath your feet. For every 2 steps up, you slide 1 step back, but reaching the top offers a view that few people ever see. Dunes stretch in every direction, wave after wave of sand flowing to the horizon like a frozen ocean. The colours shift throughout the day. At dawn, the dunes are soft pink and purple. At noon, they are pale gold and white. At sunset, they turn deep orange and red. The shadows between the dunes are blue and violet. The sky above is a dome of impossible clarity. At night, the stars appear in such numbers that the darkness between them seems thin. Standing in the empty quarter, you feel the age of the earth. You feel the insignificance of human concerns, but you also feel a strange peace, a sense that this emptiness is not absence but presence. The desert is not nothing. It is something very specific, very powerful, very old. Fact 79. Jackrabbits are not actually rabbits but hares. They have extremely long ears that help them hear predators from far away and also help regulate their body temperature. Blood flowing through the thin skin of their ears releases heat into the air, cooling the animal down. Jackrabbits can run at speeds up to 40 miles per hour and can leap 10 feet in a single bound. When a jackrabbit runs, it uses a zigzag pattern to confuse predators. They are most active at dawn and dusk, resting in the shade during the hottest parts of the day. Jackrabbits eat grasses, shrubs, and cacti, getting moisture from their food. In years when food is abundant, jackrabbit populations can explode. In lean years, their numbers drop. They are an important food source for coyotes, bobcats, eagles, and other predators. The health of jackrabbit populations often indicates the health of the desert ecosystem as a whole. When jackrabbits thrive, it usually means the plants they eat are doing well, which means there has been adequate rain. Everything is connected in this way. You cannot understand one piece without understanding the whole. Fact 80. The Namib Desert meets the Atlantic Ocean along the skeleton coast of Namibia. This coastline earned its grim name from the many shipwrecks that litter the shore. Thick fog, strong currents, and hidden rocks have claimed countless vessels over the centuries. Sailors who survived the wrecks found themselves stranded in one of the most inhospitable deserts on Earth, with no water and no way to escape. The skeletons of ships slowly rust and decay in the sand, half buried by dunes that shift over them like the tide. Whale bones also dot the beaches, remnants of the whaling industry that once operated here. The skeleton coast is beautiful in a harsh and haunting way. Fog rolls in from the ocean every morning, bringing moisture that sustains a surprising amount of life. Seals, jackals, hyenas, and even desert elephants live along this strange border, where desert and ocean meet. The elephants have learned to dig in dry riverbeds to find water. They travel long distances between water sources, following routes they have known for generations. These are not jungle elephants. They are smaller, leaner, adapted to a life of scarcity. Seeing an elephant walking across sand dunes is startling, a reminder that life is far more flexible and resilient than we often imagine. Fact 81. Creosote bushes are among the oldest living organisms on Earth. Individual plants can live for hundreds of years, but creosote bushes also clone themselves. A single plant sends out roots that sprout new stems. Over time, the original plant dies, but the clones continue. The ring of clones expands outward, and the process repeats. Some creosote bush clones in the Mojave Desert are estimated to be over 11,000 years old, making them older than the pyramids, older than written language, older than agriculture. They were already ancient when the last ice age ended. Walking through a desert and passing a creosote bush, you might not give it a second glance. It looks ordinary, unremarkable. But you might be standing next to one of the oldest living things on the planet. The creosote bush does not announce its age. It simply endures, year after year, century after century, quietly surviving in a place where survival is a daily challenge. Fact 82. Desert ironwood trees grow in the Sonoran Desert and can live for over 1,000 years. Their wood is incredibly dense and heavy, so dense that it sinks in water. When an ironwood tree dies, its wood remains standing for decades or even centuries, bleached white by the sun. Indigenous peoples used ironwood for tools and carvings because of its hardness. Today, artisans still carve beautiful sculptures from ironwood, creating detailed figures of animals and people. The trees provide crucial habitat for desert wildlife. Many species of birds nest in ironwood trees. The shade beneath them creates cooler microclimates where other plants can grow. Young saguaro cacti often grow under the protection of ironwood trees sheltered from the harshest sun and cold. The relationship between ironwood and saguaro is another example of how desert life depends on cooperation. The ironwood does not intentionally protect the saguaro, but its presence creates conditions where the cactus can survive. In return, the saguaro eventually grows tall and provides perches for birds that eat insects that might harm the ironwood. These relationships are not planned or conscious. They are the result of millions of years of species living together, adapting to each other, becoming woven into a fabric of mutual dependence. Fact 83. The Sahara expands and contracts over long cycles. During ice ages, when Earth is cooler and wetter, the Sahara shrinks and becomes greener. During warmer, drier periods, it expands. Right now, the Sahara is expanding. Its southern edge is moving into the Sahel, a semi-arid region that forms a transition zone between the desert and the savannas to the south. This expansion is partly natural, but is accelerated by human activity. Overgrazing, deforestation, and poor farming practices have degraded the land, making it easier for the desert to take over. This process is called desertification. It is a serious problem in many parts of the world. Once fertile land becomes desert, and people who depended on that land must move or face starvation. Efforts to stop desertification include planting trees, changing farming practices, and managing water more carefully. Some projects have had success. The Great Green Wall is an ambitious plan to plant a wall of trees across Africa, from Senegal to Djibouti, creating a barrier to slow the spread of the Sahara. It is a massive undertaking, but the people involved are determined. They understand that stopping the desert is not about fighting nature, but about working with it, helping the land heal, giving plants and soil a chance to recover. Fact 84. Many desert peoples are nomadic, moving from place to place with their animals in search of water and grazing land. This lifestyle is not random wandering, but carefully planned movement based on deep knowledge of the land. Nomadic herders know exactly where water can be found in different seasons. They know which plants are safe for their animals to eat and which are poisonous. They know how to read the weather, predict storms, and find shelter. This knowledge is passed down through families and communities, taught through stories, songs, and direct experience. Nomadic life is hard. It requires constant movement, constant vigilance, constant adaptation. But it is also a sustainable way to live in environments that cannot support settled agriculture. The animals do not overgraze any one area because they are always moving. Resources are used but given time to regenerate. In recent decades, many nomadic peoples have been pressured to settle in one place. To adopt modern lifestyles, governments and development agencies often see nomadism as primitive or inefficient. But forcing nomads to settle often leads to poverty and environmental damage. The traditional nomadic lifestyle was developed over thousands of years to work in harmony with the desert. Abandoning it can mean losing not just a culture, but also a crucial source of knowledge about how to live sustainably in dry lands. Fact 85. Sandstorms can carry dust and sand high into the atmosphere, where wind currents transport it around the world. Dust from North Africa crosses the Atlantic and falls in the Amazon rainforest, providing nutrients like phosphorus that rainforest plants need. Dust from Central Asian deserts travels across the Pacific Ocean and reaches North America. These dust storms connect distant ecosystems in unexpected ways. They also affect human health. Breathing in desert dust can cause respiratory problems, especially for people with asthma or other lung conditions. Dust storms reduce visibility, making travel dangerous. They can damage crops, bury homes, and strip away topsoil. In areas prone to dust storms, people have learned to prepare. They seal windows and doors. They stay inside when storms approach. They wear cloth over their faces if they must go out. Despite the dangers, dust storms are a natural part of desert life. They have been happening for millions of years. They redistribute minerals and nutrients. They shape the land. They remind us that the desert is not static. It is always moving, always changing, always reaching out to touch other parts of the world. Fact 86. The Gila monster is one of only a few venomous lizards in the world. It lives in the deserts of the southwestern United States and Mexico. The Gila monster is slow-moving and not aggressive. It spends most of its time underground and emerges mainly in spring to feed and mate. When it does bite, it holds on and chews, allowing venom to flow into the wound through grooves in its teeth. The venom is painful but rarely fatal to humans. The Gila monster eats eggs, young birds, small mammals, and other lizards. It can eat large meals and store fat in its thick tail, allowing it to go months without eating. The Gila monster has become a symbol of the desert southwest, appearing in art, stories, and even sports team logos. Scientists study Gila monster venom because it contains compounds that may be useful in medicine. One drug derived from Gila monster venom is used to treat type 2 diabetes. The lizard that people once feared and killed out of ignorance might hold keys to treating human diseases. It is a reminder that every creature has value, even those that seem dangerous or unpleasant. We do not yet know all the ways that desert life might benefit us. We are only beginning to understand the complexity and importance of these ecosystems. Fact 87. Ancient petroglyphs and pictographs cover rocks and cliffs in deserts around the world. These are images carved or painted by people who lived hundreds or thousands of years ago. They depict animals, human figures, abstract symbols, and scenes from daily life. Some petroglyphs are clearly recognizable. Others are mysterious, their meanings lost to time. Researchers study these images to learn about ancient cultures, but much remains unknown. Why were these images made? Were they religious, artistic, practical, or something else? Some may have marked trails or water sources. Others may have recorded important events or told stories. Standing before a petroglyph panel in a remote desert canyon, you feel a connection across time. Someone stood in this exact spot long ago and spent hours carefully pecking an image into stone. They wanted to leave a mark, to say, "I was here," or to communicate something important. The desert preserved their work. The dry air and lack of vegetation mean that images last far longer here than they would in wetter climates. These petroglyphs are treasures, windows into vanished worlds. They deserve protection and respect. Sadly, vandalism and careless visitors have damaged many sites. Once a petroglyph is destroyed, it is gone forever. The voice from the past is silenced. Protecting these sites means protecting history, culture, and the stories of people who understood how to live in the desert better than most of us ever will. Fact 88. Rain in the desert is a dramatic event. Storms build quickly, towering clouds rising thousands of feet. Lightning flashes, thunder echoes off canyon walls. Then the rain comes, not as a gentle shower, but as a downpour. The ground, baked hard by months of sun, cannot absorb the water fast enough. It runs off in sheets, gathering in washes and arroyos. Within minutes, a dry streambed can become a raging river. The water is thick with mud and debris. It carries rocks, branches, and anything else in its path. These flash floods are dangerous but also essential. They recharge underground aquifers, they spread seeds, they carve the landscape, creating the canyons and valleys that give deserts their distinctive shapes. After the storm passes, the desert smells different. The creosote bushes release a sharp, clean scent when wet, a smell that many people associate with the desert southwest. Puddles form in low spots and animals come to drink. Toads that have been buried underground for months emerge and begin calling for mates, filling the night with their croaking songs. They must breed quickly, laying eggs in temporary pools before the water evaporates. Tadpoles develop at incredible speed, racing to become toads before their pool dries up. Some make it, many do not. But enough survive to continue the cycle, waiting underground for the next rain, which might come in weeks or might not come for years. Fact 89. The Arabian oryx is a type of antelope that was once extinct in the wild. Hunting reduced their numbers until the last wild oryx was killed in 1972. But conservation efforts saved the species. Zoos around the world bred Arabian oryx in captivity, and in the 1980s they began releasing them back into protected desert areas in Oman, Saudi Arabia, and other countries. Today, Arabian oryx populations are recovering. They are one of the great success stories of conservation. The Arabian oryx is perfectly adapted to desert life. Its white coat reflects sunlight and helps it stay cool. It can detect rain from miles away and will travel to find fresh vegetation after storms. Like many desert animals, it can go long periods without drinking, getting moisture from plants. The oryx has a special place in the culture of the Arabian Peninsula. Some researchers believe that sightings of oryx from certain angles, where only one horn is visible, may have inspired legends of the unicorn. Whether or not this is true, the oryx is a beautiful animal, graceful and resilient. Its return to the wild is a reminder that conservation works, that species on the brink of extinction can recover if we protect them and give them a chance. Fact 90. Desert varnish darkens rocks in deserts worldwide, creating a natural canvas for ancient artists who carved petroglyphs. The varnish forms incredibly slowly, growing perhaps 1 micrometer per century. This means that some varnish layers are thousands or even tens of thousands of years old. Scientists study desert varnish to understand climate change. The layers in the varnish reflect changes in moisture and temperature over time. By analysing these layers, researchers can reconstruct what the climate was like in the past. Desert varnish also contains bacteria. These microbes may play a role in forming the varnish, though the exact process is still debated. Some bacteria absorb manganese and iron from dust in the air and concentrate it on rock surfaces. Over millennia, this creates the dark coating we see. The varnish protects the rock beneath it, slowing erosion. In a way, the bacteria are building shelters for themselves, creating stable surfaces where they can survive. Even at the microscopic level, life in the desert is about finding strategies to endure, to persist, to hold on in the face of time and sun and scarcity. Fact 91. The Atacama Giant is the largest prehistoric geoglyph in the world, a testament to human creativity and determination in one of the harshest environments imaginable. This enormous figure stretches over 300 feet tall, etched into a hillside in the Atacama Desert in northern Chile. To put this in perspective, the figure is taller than the Statue of Liberty. It towers over the landscape, visible from miles away to anyone travelling through this remote region. The figure depicts a human form with a rectangular head, a body, and limbs extending outward. Lines radiate from the head like rays of light, or perhaps a headdress. The technique used to create this massive artwork is deceptively simple, but required immense labour and planning. The artist arranged stones and removed darker surface rocks to reveal lighter soil beneath, creating contrast that defines the figure's outline and details. This process is called negative geoglyph creation, because the image is formed by taking away material rather than adding it. The Atacama Giant is estimated to be between 1,000 and 3,000 years old, created by indigenous people who lived in the region long before European contact. These were likely ancestors of the Aymara, or other cultures that inhabited the coastal and interior regions of what is now northern Chile and southern Peru. The purpose of the Atacama Giant remains one of the great mysteries of South American archaeology. Some researchers believe it was a religious or astronomical symbol, possibly representing a deity or a calendar marker. The figure's position on the hillside and the lines radiating from its head might have aligned with celestial events like solstices or the rising and setting of certain stars. Ancient peoples throughout the world used landscape features and constructed markers to track the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. These observations were crucial for agriculture, navigation, and religious ceremonies. The Atacama Giant may have served similar purposes, a massive clock or compass visible across the desert. Others think the geoglyph may have marked a route, or served as a landmark for travelers and traders moving through the region. The Atacama lies between the Pacific coast and the highlands of the Andes. For thousands of years, people have traveled these routes, trading fish and shells from the coast for potatoes, quinoa, and other highland products. Caravans of llamas carried goods across the desert, and their drivers would have needed landmarks to navigate by. A figure the size of the Atacama Giant would have been visible from great distances, serving as a reassuring sign that travelers were on the right path. There is also the possibility that the geoglyph served multiple purposes, combining religious significance with practical navigation aid. Many sacred sites throughout history have been located along important travel routes, serving both spiritual and worldly needs. The Atacama Giant is not alone. There are thousands of geoglyphs scattered across the Atacama Desert, depicting animals like llamas and birds, geometric shapes, human figures, and abstract designs. Some are large, visible from miles away. Others are small and subtle, noticed only by those who know where to look. These geoglyphs are concentrated in certain areas, particularly along ancient trade routes. They form a vast outdoor gallery, a landscape marked by human hands over many centuries. Each generation added their own images, creating a palimpsest of meaning and memory. Walking through these areas today, you can see the layers of history written in stone. Some geoglyphs are clearly older than others, partially erased by wind and time. New images were sometimes placed over or near older ones, suggesting continuity of use and meaning across generations. Flying over the Atacama in an airplane or viewing satellite images, you can see these geoglyphs from the air, patterns and images that make sense only from above. This raises fascinating questions. How did ancient people design and create images meant to be seen from perspectives they could never achieve? They had no aircraft, no way to view their work from hundreds of feet in the air, yet the proportions are correct, the lines straight and true. This suggests a level of planning, mathematical understanding, and spatial reasoning that challenges assumptions about prehistoric cultures. These were not primitive people scratching random images in the dirt. They were artists and engineers, working with surveying techniques that allowed them to translate ideas into massive earthworks with precision. Some researchers have suggested that the images were designed to be seen by spirits or deities rather than by human viewers. In this interpretation, the bird's-eye view was meant for the eyes of higher powers, not mortal observers. The act of creating the geoglyph was itself a form of prayer or offering, a gift of labour and devotion made visible in the landscape. Whether or not this interpretation is correct, it reminds us that ancient peoples often thought about space, visibility and meaning in ways very different from our modern perspectives. They created art not just to please human viewers, but to communicate with forces they believed inhabited the world around them. The preservation of the Atacama Giant and other geoglyphs is remarkable. The extreme dryness of the Atacama Desert means there is almost no erosion from rain or vegetation growth. The geoglyphs have survived for centuries or millennia with relatively little change. However, they are not indestructible. Modern threats include off-road vehicles driving over the figures, mining operations, and even trash and vandalism from careless visitors. In recent decades, increased tourism and industrial development in the Atacama have put pressure on these ancient sites. Conservation efforts are underway to protect the geoglyphs, including fencing off sensitive areas, educating visitors, and working with local communities to preserve their cultural heritage. The geoglyphs belong not just to Chile, but to all humanity. They are windows into vanished worlds, evidence of human creativity and spirituality stretching back into the depths of time. Once destroyed, they can never be replaced. The voices of those ancient artists would be silenced forever, their messages lost. Fact 92. Convergent evolution is one of the most fascinating concepts in biology, and deserts provide some of the clearest examples of this phenomenon. Convergent evolution occurs when unrelated species develop similar features independently because they face similar environmental challenges. It is evolution finding the same solution to the same problem in different places and times. This happens remarkably often in desert environments across the world. The challenges deserts present are so specific and so extreme that there are only a limited number of good solutions. Evolution, through the patient work of natural selection over millions of years, finds these solutions again and again. Consider cacti and euphorbia plants. Cacti are native to the Americas, found from Canada to Argentina, but concentrated in the deserts of Mexico and the southwestern United States. Euphorbia plants are found in African and Asian deserts. These two plant families are not closely related. They evolved on different continents, separated by oceans with no genetic connection. Yet when you see them side by side, they look remarkably similar. Both have thick, fleshy stems that store water. Both have reduced or absent leaves to minimize water loss through transpiration. Both have spines or thorns that protect them from animals seeking the water stored in their tissues. Both use specialized forms of photosynthesis that allow them to take in carbon dioxide at night when it's cooler and conserve water during the hot day. The similarity is so striking that for many years, botanists classified some euphorbias as cacti and vice versa. Only careful examination of their flowers, seeds, and internal structure revealed that they belong to completely different families. They are an example of nature arriving at the same engineering solution twice. The requirements for survival in a hot, dry environment with intense sun and scarce water are so specific that there are only so many ways to meet them successfully. Thick water-storing stems, protective spines, and minimal surface area for water loss are such effective solutions that evolution has produced them independently multiple times. This pattern repeats across many desert species. Desert rodents on different continents have independently evolved similar adaptations. Kangaroo rats in North America, jerboas in African and Asian deserts, and hopping mice in Australia are not closely related, yet they share remarkable similarities. All have developed powerful hind legs for jumping, which allows them to escape predators quickly and cover ground efficiently in open terrain. All have large ears that help radiate heat and keep them cool. All have light-coloured fur that provides camouflage against pale sand and reflects sunlight. All have efficient kidneys that produce highly concentrated urine, minimizing water loss. Many can survive their entire lives without drinking water, extracting all the moisture they need from seeds and other food. The fact that these adaptations evolved independently in unrelated animals on different continents is powerful evidence for natural selection. If these features appeared only once, we might attribute them to random chance or some unique historical circumstance. But when the same features appear again and again in different lineages facing similar challenges, it demonstrates that these features provide real survival advantages. Animals with larger ears, lighter fur, and more efficient kidneys were more likely to survive and reproduce in desert environments. Over countless generations, these traits became more common until they characterized entire populations. Convergent evolution also occurs in desert predators. Sidewinding locomotion, that distinctive S-shaped movement across sand, has evolved independently in snakes on different continents. The sidewinder rattlesnake of North American deserts and the horned viper of Saharan and Middle Eastern deserts both use this technique. They are not closely related, yet both discovered that moving sideways reduces contact with hot sand and provides better traction on loose surfaces. The physics of moving across sand impose constraints that favor certain solutions, and evolution finds those solutions wherever desert snakes exist. Even birds show convergent evolution in deserts. Sand grouse in African and Asian deserts and scaled quail in American deserts have independently evolved cryptic plumage that blends with sand and rock, ground nesting behaviors, and the ability to travel long distances to water sources. Their body shapes, colors, and habits converge because the challenges they face converge. To survive in open, exposed desert terrain, where vegetation is sparse and water is far away, certain strategies work better than others. This convergence is a testament to the power of natural selection and the way that environment shapes life over evolutionary time. When you see a cactus in Arizona and a euphorbia in Namibia, you are looking at evolution's answer to the question of how to be a plant in a hot, dry place. The answer, refined over millions of years through the deaths of countless individuals whose traits were slightly less well suited, looks almost identical, even though the evolutionary paths that led there were completely separate. These plants share no recent common ancestor, yet they have converged on the same body plan because that body plan works. Understanding convergent evolution helps us appreciate the elegance and efficiency of natural selection. It also helps us predict how life might adapt to future changes. As climate change makes more regions hotter and drier, we might expect to see species evolving traits similar to those already present in desert organisms. Some species will adapt, finding their own versions of the solutions that desert life discovered long ago. Others will not adapt quickly enough and will decline or disappear. The patterns of convergent evolution in deserts provide a preview of what adaptation to arid conditions looks like. They show us the toolkit that life uses to survive when water becomes scarce and heat becomes intense. Fact 93. The desert is a place of extremes, and nowhere is this more apparent than in the dramatic temperature swings that occur within a single day. Few environments on Earth experience such wild fluctuations between hot and cold in such a short time. A typical summer day in many hot deserts can reach temperatures of 120 degrees Fahrenheit or even higher. The sand can become hot enough to cause burns within seconds of contact. The air shimmers with heat. Metal objects become too hot to touch. Any activity becomes exhausting as the body struggles to stay cool. Then, when the sun sets, the temperature plummets. By midnight or early morning, that same desert might be near freezing, with temperatures dropping to 35 or 40 degrees Fahrenheit. This represents a temperature swing of 70 or 80 degrees or more in less than 12 hours. This extreme daily temperature range occurs because of several factors working together. First, desert air is typically very dry, with low humidity. Water vapor in the atmosphere acts as insulation, trapping heat and preventing it from escaping into space. Humid air holds heat well, which is why humid regions have smaller temperature swings between day and night. Dry desert air has very little water vapor, so there is nothing to trap the heat that builds up during the day. As soon as the sun sets and stops pumping energy into the system, the heat radiates away into space rapidly. The temperature drops quickly and dramatically. Second, deserts typically have little to no cloud cover. Clouds act like a blanket, reflecting heat back toward the ground and keeping nighttime temperatures warmer. Clear desert skies provide no such protection. The heat escapes directly into the cold vacuum of space. Third, desert surfaces often consist of sand or bare rock with no vegetation. Plants moderate temperature through shade and through transpiration, releasing moisture that cools the surrounding air. Without plants, there is nothing to buffer the temperature extremes. The bare ground heats up intensely during the day and cools just as intensely at night. This daily temperature rollercoaster is brutal for any living thing attempting to survive in the desert. Every organism must find ways to cope with both extreme heat and, just hours later, extreme cold. The strategies that desert life has developed to deal with this challenge are diverse and ingenious. Many animals are crepuscular, meaning they are most active during the twilight hours of dawn and dusk when temperatures are moderate. These brief windows of comfortable temperature are the busiest times in the desert. At dawn, as the air warms from the cold of night but before the sun becomes intense, animals emerge to feed, hunt, and carry out essential activities. The same burst of activity happens at dusk as the scorching day cools into tolerable evening. During the midday heat and the midnight cold, these animals retreat to sheltered locations where temperatures are less extreme. Fact 94. Lichens are among the most remarkable and misunderstood organisms on Earth. They are not a single organism, but a partnership, a symbiosis between two completely different forms of life living together as one. This partnership usually consists of a fungus, and either algae or cyanobacteria, though some lichens involve multiple partners. The fungus provides structure, protection, and the ability to absorb water and minerals. The algae or bacteria provide food through photosynthesis, converting sunlight into sugars that nourish both partners. Neither organism could survive alone in the harsh conditions where lichens thrive, but together they create something greater than the sum of their parts. Fact 95. The desert locust is one of the most destructive insects on Earth, capable of transforming from a harmless solitary insect into a catastrophic swarm that can devastate agriculture across entire regions. Understanding the locust requires understanding one of nature's most dramatic transformations, a change so complete that for many years scientists believed they were looking at two completely different species. The desert locust in its solitary phase is a relatively unremarkable grasshopper. It is greenish or brown, blending with vegetation. It avoids other locusts. It lives a quiet life eating plants and trying not to be eaten. But when conditions change, this same insect can transform into its gregarious phase. Its colour changes to bright yellow and black. Its body shape changes, with longer wings and a more compact form. Most dramatically, its behaviour changes completely. Instead of avoiding other locusts, it seeks them out. It forms groups with other locusts, and these groups can grow into swarms of biblical proportions. A locust swarm at its peak can contain billions of individuals and cover hundreds of square miles. A swarm of this size is visible from space, appearing as a dark cloud moving across the landscape. The numbers are almost incomprehensible. A single square kilometre of swarm, a relatively small piece of a large outbreak, can contain 40 to 80 million locusts. The entire swarm might contain tens of billions of insects. Each individual locust is small, weighing only about 2 grams, but collectively their mass is enormous. More importantly, their appetite is insatiable. A swarm can consume the same amount of food in one day as 35,000 people. They eat everything green in their path, stripping fields bare in hours, destroying entire crops, leaving behind nothing but devastation. Locust plagues have been recorded throughout human history, mentioned in ancient texts from multiple civilizations. The Bible describes locust plagues in Egypt. Ancient Chinese records document locust outbreaks and their impacts on food supplies. These insects have caused famines that killed millions of people. Even today, with modern technology and pest control methods, locust swarms threaten food security across Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Asia. A major outbreak in 2019 and 2020 affected countries from East Africa to India, destroying crops and threatening the livelihoods of millions of people. The swarms moved across borders, overwhelming control efforts, demonstrating that locusts remain a serious problem in the 21st century. The transformation from solitary to gregarious locusts is triggered by environmental conditions. Desert locusts normally exist in low numbers, scattered across their range in desert and semi-arid regions. Females lay eggs in sandy soil. The eggs hatch when conditions are favourable, usually after rains. The young locusts, called hoppers, emerge and begin feeding. If the population remains low and hoppers rarely encounter each other, they develop into the solitary phase. But if heavy rains cause a population boom and hoppers find themselves crowded together, something remarkable happens. Physical contact between hoppers triggers a chemical cascade in their brains. When a hopper's hind legs are repeatedly touched by other hoppers, sensory nerves send signals that cause the release of serotonin. This neurotransmitter causes behavioral and physiological changes. Within hours of increased contact, hoppers become more active and start grouping together rather than avoiding each other. Over several molts, as they mature, their colour and body shape change. They become the gregarious form, and when enough gregarious locusts gather, they form a swarm. This transformation is a survival strategy. In times of abundant rain and vegetation, locust populations can increase rapidly. But the abundance is temporary. The desert will dry out again. Food will become scarce. By forming swarms and migrating, locusts can travel to new areas where food is available. A swarm can fly over 100 miles in a day. Carried by wind currents, they travel in search of green vegetation, following rain patterns across entire regions. When they find suitable conditions, the swarm descends. The locusts feed, mate, and lay eggs. If conditions remain favourable, the next generation will also be gregarious, and the outbreak continues. If conditions deteriorate and the population crashes, survivors revert to the solitary phase, and the cycle resets. Controlling locust swarms is extremely difficult. Once a swarm forms, it is nearly impossible to stop. Aerial spraying of pesticides can kill millions of locusts, but when the swarm contains billions, even large-scale spraying may have limited impact. The pesticides also have environmental consequences, killing beneficial insects and potentially contaminating water and soil. The most effective control strategy is prevention, catching outbreaks in their early stages before swarms form. This requires extensive monitoring of desert areas where locusts breed. Teams of observers track rainfall, vegetation growth, and locust populations. When conditions favour an outbreak, control teams move in to spray breeding areas before populations explode. Early intervention can prevent a small outbreak from becoming a regional catastrophe. Modern technology has improved monitoring and control efforts. Satellite imagery helps track rainfall and vegetation greening across vast desert areas. This information predicts where locusts are likely to breed. Drones can survey remote areas that are difficult or dangerous to reach on the ground. International cooperation is essential because locusts do not respect borders. A swarm that forms in one country can quickly move into neighbouring countries. Organisations like the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations coordinate international monitoring and control efforts, sharing information and resources. Climate change may make locust plagues more frequent and severe. Changes in rainfall patterns can create conditions that favour rapid population growth. More erratic weather, with periods of heavy rain followed by drought, can trigger the environmental conditions that lead to outbreaks. As temperatures rise and weather becomes more unpredictable, the regions where desert locusts can breed may expand. There is concern that areas previously unsuitable for locusts might become viable habitat. This could expose new regions to swarm damage, affecting countries that have little experience dealing with locusts and may not have the infrastructure for monitoring and control. The desert locust is a reminder that the desert, though it often seems quiet and empty, contains incredible potential energy. Life exists at low densities most of the time, constrained by limited water and food. But when conditions align, when rains come at the right time and temperature is favourable, life can explode with startling speed and intensity. The desert is not a stable, unchanging place. It is dynamic, capable of sudden and dramatic shifts. Locusts embody this desert dynamism. They are the desert's reminder that scarcity can flip to abundance in an instant, and that abundance, when it comes, can be overwhelming and even destructive. They teach us that systems we think we understand can surprise us, that small changes in conditions can cascade into enormous consequences, and that nature operates on timescales and magnitudes that humble human attempts at control. Fact 96. Water in the desert is life, and this simple truth cannot be overstated. Where there is permanent water, life gathers in abundance, creating pockets of extraordinary biodiversity in landscapes otherwise dominated by species adapted to aridity. Desert oases, springs, seeps, and the rare perennial rivers that flow through deserts are biodiversity hotspots, disproportionately important relative to their size. These wetland areas in the middle of vast dry lands support dense concentrations of plants, animals, birds, amphibians, and invertebrates. They are magnets for life, drawing creatures from miles around. A single spring in the middle of a desert might be the only water source in 1,000 square miles. Everything depends on it. Oases have been crucial to human civilization in desert regions for thousands of years. Ancient trade routes were planned from oasis to oasis, with the distance between water sources determining how far caravans could travel. Cities grew up around reliable water sources. Wars were fought over control of springs and wells. Even today, human settlements in deserts cluster around water. Las Vegas grew from a small spring. The cities of the Nile Valley exist because of the river flowing through desert. Phoenix and Tucson draw water from distant rivers through canals and pipelines. Water is the limiting factor, the resource that determines whether human habitation is possible. For wildlife, desert water sources are equally critical. Many desert animals can survive for extended periods without drinking, extracting moisture from food or using incredibly efficient physiologies to conserve water. But most still need to drink occasionally. When they do, they travel to known water sources, sometimes covering many miles. Waterholes and springs become gathering places where animals that normally would never encounter each other come together. Predators know this and wait near water to ambush prey. The areas around water sources see more drama, more interaction, more life compressed into small spaces than anywhere else in the desert. Desert water sources are particularly critical for birds. Many bird species that live in deserts year-round depend on reliable water for drinking and bathing. Even more important, migratory birds use desert wetlands as crucial stopover points. Millions of birds migrate each year between breeding grounds in northern regions and wintering grounds in the south. Their routes often take them across deserts. A small bird migrating from Alaska to Central America might cross the Sonoran Desert. Flying hundreds of miles across waterless terrain is energy-intensive and dangerous. Birds must stop to rest, drink, and refuel. Desert oases and riparian areas, places where rivers or streams flow through deserts, provide these essential stopover sites. A migrating warbler might spend several days at an oasis, eating insects, drinking, and building up energy reserves before continuing its journey. The loss of a single spring or oasis can have impacts that ripple across entire regions and even continents. If a critical stopover site disappears, migratory birds lose an essential link in their journey. They might not have the energy reserves to reach the next water source. Migration routes that have been used for thousands of years can be disrupted. Bird populations can decline not because of problems at their breeding or wintering grounds, but because of the loss of stopover habitat in between. This makes the conservation of desert water sources important not just locally but globally. Protecting a spring in the Mojave Desert helps birds that breed in Canada and winter in Mexico. The connections across vast distances remind us that ecosystems are not isolated. They are interconnected webs spanning continents. Unfortunately, human demand for water often conflicts with the needs of wildlife. As human populations grow in desert regions, the pressure on limited water resources increases. Wells are drilled to extract groundwater for agriculture, industry, and urban use. Springs dry up when groundwater levels drop. Rivers are dammed and diverted, with water siphoned off before it reaches natural desert wetlands. In many desert regions, the result has been catastrophic decline in wetland habitats. The Colorado River, one of the most important rivers in the American Southwest, is so heavily dammed and diverted that it rarely reaches the sea anymore. Its delta, once a vast wetland supporting incredible biodiversity, is now mostly dry. The loss of this habitat has caused declines in many species that depended on it. Finding ways to share water between humans and nature is one of the great challenges of desert conservation. It requires careful planning, cooperation between different users, and a willingness to prioritize long-term sustainability over short-term gain. Some communities and regions have found ways to do this successfully. They implement water conservation measures, use efficient irrigation techniques, restore degraded wetlands, and maintain minimum flows in rivers to support ecosystems. These efforts show that coexistence is possible, that we do not have to choose between people and nature. We can have both if we are thoughtful and respectful in how we use the resources the desert provides. One approach is to protect the most important water sources as reserves or sanctuaries where wildlife needs take priority. Not every spring or stream needs to be developed for human use. By identifying and protecting the most critical sites for biodiversity, especially those that serve as migratory bird stopovers or habitat for endangered species, we can maintain the ecological functions these sites provide while still allowing human water use elsewhere. This requires compromise and planning, but it is achievable. Another approach is improving water use efficiency. Agriculture typically uses the vast majority of water in desert regions, often 70 to 80% or more. Much of this water is wasted through inefficient irrigation systems that allow huge amounts of evaporation and runoff. By switching to drip irrigation, covering canals, choosing crops that require less water, and improving soil management, farmers can produce the same amount of food with significantly less water. The water saved can then remain in rivers and aquifers, supporting natural ecosystems. Similarly, urban water use can be reduced through conservation measures, low-flow fixtures, drought-tolerant landscaping, and water recycling systems. Some desert regions are exploring innovative solutions like managed aquifer recharge, where excess water during wet years is deliberately stored underground in aquifers to be used during dry years. This mimics natural processes and can help maintain groundwater levels that feed springs and wetlands. Other efforts focus on removing invasive plants that consume large amounts of water, allowing more to remain for native species and human use. The fundamental challenge is recognizing that water is a finite resource in the desert. The idea that we can simply take as much water as we want whenever we want it is an illusion that has caused tremendous environmental damage. The desert teaches limits. It teaches that systems have carrying capacities, that resources can be exhausted, that short-term thinking leads to long-term problems. Water sources in the desert are gifts, rare and precious. They have supported life for thousands or millions of years. If we destroy them in a single generation through over-extraction and pollution, we will have squandered an inheritance that can never be recovered. But if we approach them with wisdom, restraint, and respect, they can continue to support both human communities and the incredible diversity of life that makes deserts far richer and more complex than most people realize. The choice is ours. The desert, as always, waits patiently to see what we will decide. Fact 97. The color of the desert sky is different from the sky in more humid regions. The lack of moisture and particles in the air makes the sky a deeper, more intense blue during the day. This is not imagination or poetic exaggeration. It is a measurable physical difference. The sky appears blue because of the way light scatters in the atmosphere. Short wavelength blue light scatters more than longer wavelength red light. In humid areas, water vapor and pollution particles scatter light in all directions, creating a paler, hazier sky. In the dry, clean air of the desert, there is less scattering. The blue is purer, deeper, almost overwhelming in its intensity. At sunrise and sunset, the colors are extraordinarily vivid, with reds, oranges, and purples that seem almost unreal. The low angle of the sun sends light through more atmosphere, scattering blue light away and leaving the warm colors behind. Without humidity to diffuse these colors, they appear sharp and brilliant. Photographers and artists have long been drawn to deserts partly because of this quality of light. The clear air and stark landscapes create high contrast and brilliant colors. Shadows are sharp and dark. Highlights are bright and clear. There is a clarity to desert light that is hard to find elsewhere. This light has inspired countless works of art, from the landscapes of painters like Georgia O'Keeffe to the photographs of Ansel Adams. Georgia O'Keeffe moved to New Mexico partly because she was captivated by the desert light and the way it revealed the forms and colors of the landscape. She spent decades painting the bones, flowers, and hills of the desert, trying to capture something essential about the place. The desert shows itself honestly in this light. There is no softness, no gentle blurring. Every detail is visible, every texture is revealed. It is beauty without mercy, landscape exposed and undisguised. Some people find this harsh, others find it liberating. In the desert, you see things as they truly are. The light does not lie. Fact 98. Deserts are not wastelands waiting to be developed. They are complete functional ecosystems with their own value and beauty. For too long, deserts were seen as empty spaces to be conquered, irrigated, and transformed. But we are learning that deserts provide essential services. They regulate climate, store carbon in soil and plants, provide habitat for unique species, and hold cultural and spiritual significance for millions of people. Protecting deserts means recognizing their worth as they are. Many desert regions face threats from development: mining, off-road vehicles, and climate change. Conservation efforts aim to protect large areas as wilderness, places where natural processes can continue. These protected areas are refuges for species disappearing elsewhere. They are also refuges for people, places to experience solitude and connect with something larger. In a crowded, noisy world, the quiet, empty spaces of the desert become more precious every year. Fact 99. There is a quality to time in the desert that feels different from time in other places. Perhaps it is the visibility of geological time, the sense that you are walking on landscapes shaped over millions of years. Perhaps it's the slow pace of life, the plants that grow an inch per decade, the tortoises that live for nearly a century. Perhaps it is simply the absence of the usual markers of time, the lack of seasons in the traditional sense. Whatever the reason, the desert teaches patience. It teaches that some things cannot be rushed. It teaches that endurance matters more than speed. In our modern world, we are obsessed with efficiency, with doing more faster. The desert offers a different model. It shows that sometimes the best strategy is to wait, to rest, to conserve energy until conditions improve. This is not laziness, it is wisdom. The desert has been practicing this wisdom for millions of years, long before humans arrived. If we are willing to listen, to watch, to learn, the desert can teach us how to live in a world that is becoming hotter and drier. Fact 100. The desert holds silence like nowhere else on Earth. In the deep desert, far from roads and plains and cities, you can experience true quiet. Not the muffled quiet of a closed room, but absolute silence, the absence of sound so complete that it becomes a presence of its own. In this silence, you hear things you never notice in daily life. The whisper of wind over sand, the rustle of a lizard in dry grass, your own heartbeat steady and persistent. This silence can be uncomfortable at first. We are used to noise, to constant stimulation. Silence feels empty, almost threatening. But if you stay with it, if you let yourself sink into it, the silence becomes restful. It becomes a space where thoughts can settle, where worries fade. The desert offers this gift freely to anyone willing to venture into its heart and simply be still. In the silence of the desert, many people have found clarity, peace, or understanding that eluded them in the busy world. It is not magical, though it can feel that way. It is simply the result of removing distractions, of stripping away everything except the essential. And in that stripped-down state, we often find what we were looking for all along. The desert in its emptiness is full, in its silence it speaks, in its harshness it offers peace.